This is News 4 New York with Chuck Scarborough and Sue Simmons.
Good evening. The Mets even the World Series. We'll have team coverage of their incredible comeback in Boston.
But first, we have a grim development in a tragedy that struck us here at NBC today, a tragedy heard by millions. WNBC traffic reporter Jane Dornacker has been pronounced dead. Her pilot remains in critical condition tonight. Their helicopter crashed into the Hudson River late this afternoon. Jane was broadcasting a radio traffic report at the time, and millions heard her final, terrified words as the helicopter hit. It was her second crash in 6 months. Both helicopters were flown by the same company, a company that had been grounded. John Miller begins our coverage.
The helicopter was pulled from the murky waters of the Hudson River tonight. Now, National Transportation Safety Board investigators will begin their work. It began at 4:45. Pilot William Pate was at the controls. Traffic reporter Jane Dornacker was at his side doing a live traffic report. She didn't seem to know what was happening until it was too late.
Heading to New Jersey, the outbound Lincoln Tunnel looks a lot better for you in New Jersey. Get the water, hit the water, hit the water!
The helicopter cut through an 8-foot chain link fence and dropped into the water. Paul Haashagen was the first fire department diver on the scene.
I found one man strapped in the seat. I took his seatbelt off, brought him right to the surface, then dove down for a second time and found a lady. She wasn't strapped in the seat, but she was pinned in a helicopter.
Paramedics worked feverishly to revive Dornacker and Pate on the scene. Both had been trapped underwater for several minutes. Dornacker was taken to St. Vincent's Hospital, where an emergency trauma team continued to try and revive her. Pate was taken to Bellevue.
Hi, I'm Jane Dornacker, traffic reporter for WNBC.
Dornacker was a familiar voice to commuters with her traffic reports, and this was her second crash. The first one was in April when her chopper went down in the Hackensack River near Richfield Park, New Jersey. Tonight at St. Vincent's Hospital, concerned colleagues of Dornacker showed up to learn what they could.
Everyone at WNBC is shocked and very saddened by Jane's death. And I think that we would want to remember her as a very enthusiastic and talented person, who was a very talented performer and a good friend.
National Transportation Safety Board investigators took a preliminary look at the chopper tonight. Tomorrow, their engineers and investigators will begin the long job of reviewing the craft's maintenance records and looking for what went wrong over Manhattan today. John Miller, News 4, Manhattan.
Dornacker was 40 years old. In the past, she has worked as a comedian, a musician, and a reporter, and she is survived by a daughter.
Just how safe was the helicopter that crashed into the Hudson today? Well, the company that owned the chopper has had problems in the past, problems that caught the attention of the FAA. News 4's Tony Gatta has more.
For Spectrum Helicopters, tonight's crash was its third in 6 months. On June 25th, the Spectrum chopper trying to land at West 30th Street went into the Hudson River, but the botched landing caused no injuries. On April 18th, a Spectrum helicopter with Jane Dornacker on board plunged 25 feet into the Hackensack River off Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. Dornacker was not injured.
The runners hit the water and it just went in on my side. And the next thing I know, I was underwater and I couldn't get my seatbelt undone, so it was kind of scary.
In addition to the crashes, the company has had problems with federal regulators. The Federal Aviation Administration grounded Spectrum helicopters in March of 1985, officially for a period of 45 days. The FAA cited the company for 13 violations of federal regulations. The FAA said Spectrum operated aircraft recklessly, that the company used an improperly licensed pilot, that Spectrum used pilots without their having passed annual flight checks, and that the company operated an aircraft without its annual inspection. No Spectrum officials were available tonight for comment, but the company was required to correct those violations before being allowed to resume operations. WNBC Radio stopped flying with Spectrum after the April crash and hired an independent consultant to review its operation.
His report indicated that Spectrum's maintenance and safety conditions were up to par. And at that point, we made the judgment that we should continue to fly.
Donna Fiducia was WNBC's traffic reporter in 1984 when a Spectrum chopper had to make an emergency landing in Queens. Tonight she told me how she felt about the Enstrom helicopters the company flies.
An Enstrom it's just a touchy machine. It's almost like a sports car, something that you have to keep after a lot, and it takes a lot of maintenance, and they will tend to have problems.
There are experts, pilots, and mechanics who agree with fiducia. There are others who do not. But WNBC General Manager Hayes said tonight he is sure that ship was safe. And he told Dornacker that when she asked him this summer if it was safe to go back in the air.